Why, sure. You're one of the stars of the show. And the same goes for you, too. Aw, shucks, folks. Everybody's a star on the Huckleberry Hound show. So let's go!
Huckleberry Hound is the lethargic yet charming southern dog created by William Hanna and Joe Barbera in 1958. Originally debuting in his own series, he became an immediate sensation, though soon before long, his spotlight was stolen by supporting character Yogi Bear. While Yogi would go on to live a long life in TV series and movies, Huck was forced into his shadow, taking a secondary role for most of his existence. In 2023, Huckleberry Hound celebrates 65 years, and to help him I will trace his entire evolution from 1958 to now. To do so, we will look at the character's history, touching on his various changes over more than 6 decades of series and specials, also touching on the early cartoons that heavily influenced his creation. In this edition of Cartoon Evolution! By the middle 50s, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera were two of the leading minds in cartoon creation. Helping to establish MGM as a powerhouse cartoon studio, they had created Tom and Jerry, which eventually totaled 114 cartoons and 7 Academy Award wins, and found them heads of MGM's cartoon output. However, in 1957, with audiences drifting away from the big screen and towards television, and the studio finding it more cost-effective to reissue old cartoons theatrically than to create new ones, MGM closed the cartoon studio, firing their 110 employee creative staff. In response, Hanna and Barbera formed a joint venture to continue their work. Initially branded HB Enterprises, it would soon become Hanna-Barbera Productions. Just like MGM had, they planned to follow the audience and develop their very first TV series. Rough and Ready was a collection of shorts which followed a cat and dog duo, which ran between 1957 and 1960. While a somewhat forgotten gem today, it was a groundbreaking series. Not only was it one of the first animated series produced specifically for TV, but it helped pioneer an assembly line animation style, which utilized cheats and shortcuts to allow fewer drawings, resulting in rigid, limited movement. To do so, the team agreed to slash their budgets from $35,000 to only $2,700 for roughly 5 to 7 minutes of screen time. Lauded at the time as entertaining and clever, Rough and Ready allowed Hanna-Barbera the levity to expand their empire with more cartoons, and in the late 1950s began developing a half-hour cartoon showcase, which would feature 3 brand new cartoons per episode. Barbera, the ideas man of the duo, came up with a number of characters to feature in recurring shorts. A cool, intelligent brown bear named Yogi, Pixie and Dixie, a pair of troublemaking mice, or Mises, and Jinx the cat, who hated them to pieces, and of course, Huckleberry Hound, a lethargic yet charming southern dog. With a handful of completed cartoons, Barbera flew to Chicago to pitch the series to sponsors who could on-sell it to a network. First, he took it to Kellogg's for what he would call his first pitch to anybody. He'd say, "I had never sold a show before because I didn't have to. If we got an idea, we just made it for over 20 years. All of a sudden, I'm a salesman in a room with 45 people staring at me, and I'm pushing Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear and the Mises." Barbera described the room as being full of cranky and mean businessmen who just wanted to get lunch and a drink. Despite a somewhat uncomfortable atmosphere, the agency loved the pitch, with Barbera saying they fell off their chairs laughing at the cartoons and immediately bought the show. The series was originally set to use Yogi Bear in the starring role. However, Kellogg's felt he was far too similar to numerous other cartoon bears. Huckleberry was instead moved to the front, with Yogi in a featured role. Huckleberry would host each show, like a 1950s showman in a circus tent, presenting the cartoons to audiences in wraparounds and bridging sequences. Yogi would occasionally appear in these sequences as somewhat of a sidekick. Of course, just like his supporting characters, Huck got to headline his own series of 7-minute cartoon shorts within the show. In crafting Huckleberry Hound, Hanna and Barbera looked to a character created by Tex Avery at MGM in the 1950s, an unnamed wolf with a southern drawl, informally referred to as Southern Wolf. First appearing in 1953 Droopy cartoon The Three Little Pups, Southern Wolf appeared as an antagonistic dog catcher, attempting to catch Droopy and his brothers in a series of elaborate and outlandish traps. Of course, each one backfires on the wolf, whose calm, cool persona never wavers. He remains disappointed but not angry, almost as if he was expecting the result. To keep calm, the wolf continually whistles Civil War Unionist tune Year of the Jubilee. He also continuously breaks the fourth wall, talking to the audience throughout the short. Avery liked the character so much, he immediately gave him his own solo cartoon, 1954's Billy Boy. In this one, the wolf was instead a protagonist, more of an innocent fool than an aggressor, as his attempts to keep a billy goat safe result in nothing but bad luck and pain for himself, his acts of kindness similarly backfiring. Again though, he remains cool, calm and incredibly collected. Before Avery could further develop the wolf within his regular roster of characters, his unit was shut down. Droopy cartoons continued under the lead of Hanna-Barbera, with a new pair starring the wolf, Blackboard Jumble and Sheepwrecked, released in 1957 and 1958 respectively. These two placed the wolf in similar situations to Billy Boy, but was once again given an antagonistic streak. While these were some of the last cartoons from the MGM studio, they gave Hanna-Barbera first-hand familiarity with the character that would inform them only a few years later. The Southern Wolf has often been referred to as Huck's predecessor, and it's obvious why. All of the wolf's mannerisms and personality quirks were transferred over almost verbatim. His slow nature, his cool attitude, his foolhardy personality, and his penchant for incessant singing and breaking the fourth wall. Likewise, Huckhound was given a southern drawl, provided by legendary voice artist Dawes Butler, in a voice that he had used in numerous cartoons before, including those starring Southern Wolf. For decades, there's been speculation that Huck's voice was a parody of comedic actor Andy Griffith, a native North Carolinian, whose show, The Andy Griffith Show, was one of the most popular sitcoms on television at the time. Hanna-Barbera in the coming years even had a penchant for basing their characters on popular celebrities and characters. The Flintstones were the Honeymooners, Top Cat was Phil Silvers, Snagglepuss was the Lion from The Wizard of Oz, Mr. Jinx was Marlon Brando, and Scooby-Doo's Mystery Inc. Gang was the crew from The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. So Huck would seemingly fit in amongst the pack, and as such, Butler faced this claim his entire life, vehemently denying it. Butler noted, "I had been doing the slow-talking, laconic voice for some time at MGM. I even used a version of the voice for the big dog in the TV series Hanna-Barbera was already doing." Butler even claimed that he'd been doing the voice for a decade before Griffith was even famous. Instead, Butler stated that he'd lifted the voice from a hometown neighbour of his wife who lived in North Carolina, which he'd found humorous and easygoing. Actor and frequent Butler collaborator Stan Freberg would say, "You have to realise that Hanna-Barbera worked backward from characterizations that Dawes created to come up with Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear. He was those characters long before they ever hit the screen. Huckleberry Hound and Yogi Bear were walking, talking, visual adaptations of what he did for years." Though Butler did take some time to refine Huck's voice, which was initially loud, excitable, happy and high-pitched, fitting his showman persona.
This is Detective Huckleberry Hound tracking down what's coming up on the show.
Eventually though, he toned it and slowed it down, also deepening it to fit the more relaxed personality in his shorts.
This fella's got a right nice voice on a telephone.
Working backward from the vocalization, the Southwest had a huge impact on Huck. His name was taken from Mark Twain's great American novel, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, one of the most beloved pieces of historic Southwestern literature. Kellogg's originally vetoed the name for being too long, but Barbera was insistent. Huckleberry Hound not only bled directly into the character's Southwestern roots, but sounded hilarious. Likewise, 1880s Western folk ballad Oh My Darling Clementine was chosen as his anthem, a song which he always gave a tone-deaf, inaccurate and muddled rendition.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine.
While a well-known tune, even used as the title of a 1946 John Ford Western starring Henry Fonda, the use of the song in the Huck cartoons is easily the most prominent in all of pop culture, over time becoming synonymous with the Hound. The Old West also became a regular landscape in his cartoons, offering up a number of classic Western parodies, starting with his fifth cartoon, Sheriff Huckleberry. Across his Western-themed shorts, Huck was seen as a gunfighter, a cowpoke, a Pony Express rider, an Indian fighter, a cavalryman, a deputy, and a sheriff. These installments became so beloved that many still think of Huck as a cowboy. However, you might be surprised to learn that out of 57 classic cartoons, only 7 were set in the Old West. The Huck shorts, in fact, were never bound to any particular time or place. Instead, they jumped across settings and continents and spanned dozens of timelines and historic eras. As such, Huckleberry Hound was arguably Hanna-Barbera's most experimental collection of cartoons, with animators and storymen given free rein and open possibilities for exploration. Huck's formula saw the character presented in various different personas and professions, attempting to complete a job or task. And very much like that first Southern Wolf cartoon, Huck's plights often backfired with disastrous consequences. Likewise, Huck was usually unbothered and unscathed, simply accepting his fate as a hapless fool. Storyman Warren Foster said, "I think of Huckleberry Hound as human. He is a sort of Tennessee type guy who never gets mad no matter how much he is outraged. He's the fall guy, and a large part of his humour is the way he shrugs off misfortune." However, the major difference with the Huck cartoons is that, mostly due to dumb luck, he finds success in the end. Throughout the course of his cartoons, Huck was seen in occupations ranging from the regular, a fireman, a cab driver, a postman, a farmer, a chef, a vet, a TV repairman, a super salesman, a dog catcher, a prison warden, a New York cop, a London cop, a Paris cop, a Mountie, to the exciting, a olden day ship captain, a big game hunter in the African jungle, a legionnaire in Egypt, a ski champ, a top operative international spy, a Spanish bullfighter, a scientist, an astronaut, to the extravagant, a caveman, a Roman gladiator, a giant killer, a dragon slayer in medieval Europe. Some of his cartoons even saw him take on classic literary legends such as Robin Hood, the Scarlet Pimpernel, Tarzan, King of the Jungle, and Little Red Riding Hood. Animation historian Jim Korkis has said, "Huck is really a true cartoon actor. He is the consummate toon thespian, able to play any role with a casual ease and still retain his personality." Debuting in 1958, the Huckleberry Hound show was an immediate success, growing so popular it peaked at 16 million viewers and made Hanna-Barbera a household name. Barbera noted that the puns and witty dialogue gave Huck and the series a sophisticated feel, perhaps why a large portion of the viewership in fact were college age and above. In its first year on the air, the series even won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Children's Program, making it the first animated series to ever win an Emmy. It would actually take 8 years for another animated program to win the same award, the iconic Charlie Brown Christmas. As such, Huck became Hanna-Barbera's first superstar character. He generated one of the studio's biggest merchandise lines, spanning everything from dolls, to toys, to records, to Kellogg cereals, to Halloween costumes. The costume, in fact, became so popular that it appeared briefly in 1961 Audrey Hepburn classic Breakfast at Tiffany's. Additionally, Huck starred in a long-running series of comics right through to 1970, under various publishers such as Dell, Gold Key, Charlton, and Hayward of London. In 1960, it was even reported that the crew of the United States Coast Guard icebreaker US Glacier had named a tiny island in the Antarctic after him in, quote, a gesture of fealty that may mystify future naval historians. Mystifyingly, no trace of the island remains on maps today. However, Huck's immense fame didn't last long, with another character beginning to rise through the ranks at Hanna-Barbera, his once sidekick and supporting cast member, Yogi Bear. By the end of the Huckleberry Hound show's third season in 1960, Yogi had become so popular that in 1961 he was broken out into his very own series, The Yogi Bear Show, which premiered 6 months before Huck's 4th season debut. The series took on the same formula, but with Yogi in the presenter role, introducing 3 cartoons weekly. With new Yogi cartoons now featured in his own show, the brand new Hokey Wolf was created to fill his slot in the Huck lineup. The Yogi Show instantly became Hanna-Barbera's most successful series, and Yogi now outshone and overshadowed his former boss. Naturally, the Huck Show wasn't renewed the following year, coming to a swift end after 68 episodes and 57 individual short Huck cartoons. The Yogi Show, however, continued through to the 1962 season. To add insult to injury, Huck's next appearance was in the Yogi Show finale, celebrating Yogi's birthday alongside other Hanna-Barbera characters in the studio's most elaborate crossover to that point. While Yogi continued to make small appearances, starred in his own movie, and even spawned his own sister series, Huck disappeared from the limelight. His next appearance wasn't until 1967, when his original cartoons were re-aired as part of package series Yogi Bear and Friends, alongside Yogi cartoons and other segments from the Huck and Yogi shows. Huck's fame had now waned so much that the tides had turned. He was now featuring in Yogi's show. His trajectory echoed that of so many real-life fallen Hollywood stars, or even an epic Shakespearean melodrama. And while this little hound is very much fictional, one can't help but feel a kind of sorrow and sympathy for him. Huck wouldn't appear in New Adventures until 1972, once again playing support to Yogi in Yogi's Lark, Hanna-Barbera's first installment in the ABC Saturday Superstar movie anthology, a series of hour-long animated tally movies produced by various studios, the first ever series of its kind. In Lark, Yogi and the residents of Jellystone, practically every major Hanna-Barbera animal character of the 50s and 60s, build a flying ark and leave the park to search for the perfect place, a mythical land free of pollution and deforestation and untouched by man. At the beginning of the cartoon, Huck is seen wearing his ringmaster hat from his series, though soon becomes a deckhand aboard the Ark, at one point even relegated to scrubbing the deck. Oh, how the mighty have fallen! In their first mission, Huck is reluctantly sent down to sea level to wake up a whale. While part of the Superstar movie anthology, Lark also acted as the extended pilot to Yogi's Gang, a series which premiered on ABC Saturday mornings in 1973. The series followed a similar premise, with Yogi and pals off on globe-trotting adventures, fighting ecological issues and bigotry, going up against villains like Dr. Bigot, Mr. Prankster, Greedy Genie, Gossipy Witch, Lotta Litter, and Captain Swipe. Here, Huck's role was similar to that in Lark, however, it was slightly more important, assisting the crew on their world-hopping adventures. In this series, he traded his top hat for his yellow straw hat, also made famous in the original Huck show. Amidst a small revitalization in his new supporting role, Huck, who'd faded from comics almost a decade earlier, appeared in Marvel's Hanna-Barbera Spotlight, a limited anthology series featuring short stories starring the studio's side characters, which ran between 1977 and 1978 for 4 issues. Huck appeared as a supporting character in one issue and the headliner of another, though of course Huck's spotlight was overshadowed once again, as he was forced to share his one and only feature cover with Yogi Bear. In fact, while Huck was delegated to this anthology series alongside Hanna-Barbera's B-Team, Yogi continued to flourish in the medium, given his very own concurrent 9-issue Marvel series. Throughout the 1970s, Huck continued to appear as a supporting character in various series headlined by Yogi. First was 1977's Laff-A-Lympics, part of ABC's Scooby's All-Star Laff-A-Lympics ABC Saturday morning block. Laff-A-Lympics crossed over 45 classic 50s and 60s Hanna-Barbera characters in an Olympic-style event series, presenting wacky, comedic, competitive sports in different regions around the world and beyond. It featured 3 all-star teams and saw Huck a team member of the Yogi Yahooies. Man, how bad can it get? The Hound was now taking orders from the Bear. Later in 1978, Huck appeared in 2 segments of the Yogi's Space Race block. First was the headliner Yogi's Space Race, a space set reworking of Wacky Races, which featured the characters racing through various galaxies in wacky automobiles. Here, Huck, in his classic appearance, was paired up with the brand new short-lived Quack-Up, an annoying duck voiced by Mel Blanc. Huck, in true style, usually made Quack-Up do all of the work while he lounged back. Additionally, the block featured Galaxy Goof-Offs, which featured Huck, Quack-Up, Yogi and Scare Bear as incompetent intergalactic police officers, and followed their goofed-up antics on the job. Their incompetence, however, would always lead to their ultimate victory. In fact, the series was close in formula to the original Huck cartoons. Here, he was seen in a futuristic outfit with his classic straw hat. Both Galaxy Goof-Offs and Space Race were so popular, they were eventually separated from the package and aired in their own blocks. From 1979 to 1982, Huck joined Yogi and pals in a trio of Christmas specials. First was 1979's 30-minute NBC special, Casper's First Christmas, which saw the characters celebrating Christmas with Casper the Friendly Ghost and Hairy Scary from Casper and the Angels. Then was 1980's Yogi's First Christmas, a 90-minute syndicated telemovie which saw the crew thwarting attempts by 2 villains to ruin Christmas. And finally, in 1982, was 24-minute CBS special Yogi Bear's All-Star Comedy Christmas Caper, which saw Huck lead the crew to Jellystone Park to celebrate the holidays with Yogi and Boo Boo, only to find they've disappeared. Huck and team then head on a cross-country road trip to find the pair just in time for Christmas. It was easily Huck's most prominent role for some time. Each of the specials featured a larger budget and more refined style than Hanna-Barbera's usual limited fare. Between 1985 and 1988, Huck featured in yet another Yogi series, Yogi's Treasure Hunt, which aired in the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera syndicated block. In somewhat of a follow-up to the Yogi's Gang series, it saw the crew travelling the globe on various treasure hunts. Notably, Huck got to headline his very own Season 2 episode, Huckle Hero, which saw him take up a brand new superhero alter ego, Huckle Hero, to save his pals from the clutches of Dastardly and Muttley. In essence, it took on the classic Huck formula and acted as the de facto first full-length Huckleberry Hound episode. In the late 80s, Huck appeared in a couple of 90-minute telemovies presented in the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 series. Firstly, as a supporting character in 1987's Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. Again, another Yogi's Gang-inspired adventure, which saw the crew flying Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose airplane on a world-hopping humanitarian mission. However, in 1988, Huck returned to the spotlight in not only his very first movie, but in his very own official headliner for the first time in nearly 30 years, The Good, the Bad, and Huckleberry Hound. Touted as Huckleberry Hound's starring role comeback, the movie took the form of a classic Huck western adventure, parodying various films from the genre. Taking the role of the mysterious, steely-eyed, and silent-type stranger, Huck arrives in a small town ravaged by a gang of outlaw brothers, and is set on a mission to bring them to justice. While Yogi did appear in the movie, his role was severely reduced to a few brief appearances, allowing Huck to truly shine for the first time in 3 decades. Other Hanna-Barbera stars also came along for the ride, appearing sporadically as various townsfolk characters throughout. The movie would mark the final time Dawes Butler voiced Huck before his death later that year. Unfortunately, Huck's return to stardom was short-lived, almost immediately returning to a supporting role for 1990s series Fender Bender 500, a short-form revival of Wacky Races. The series was presented within Hanna-Barbera's morning series Wake, Rattle and Roll, and took the form of 5-minute cartoon shorts, again seeing characters taking part in eccentric motor races. Here, Huck was teamed up with Snagglepuss to drive the half-dog, half-cat, half-track, an enormous military truck designed to look like a theatre stage. Given the number 2 car designation, Huck was once again placed second fiddle to Yogi, who was, of course, seen driving the number 1 car. Surprisingly, however, Huck and Snagglepuss had 6 wins throughout the series, the most of any competitors, even beating Yogi and Boo Boo by 1. The series put a more contemporary spin on characters with relevant jokes and fresher animation. Not so much, however, as 1991's Yo Yogi, which debuted on NBC Saturday mornings and depicted Yogi and his gang as teenage crime fighters working for the LAF, Lost and Found Agency, solving mysteries at the Jellystone Mall. Huck, of course, appeared as one of Yogi's team, and as one of the single most 90s cartoons ever made, was seen in a groovy new design with a baggy sweatshirt and backwards cap. Naturally, the show was well received by younger audiences, though Joe Barbera was not as impressed, commenting that characters looked like whoremongers. It's easily the most bizarre iteration of Huck and the rest of the crew. While Huck was mostly a supporting character, he did take the lead in 2 episodes, Huck's Doggone Day and Mallow Fallow, which saw him on the hunt for Wee Willie Gorilla, a character which appeared in the first ever Huck cartoon. Once again, Huck slipped from the public conscience, not returning until 2000's Soundhound, a short created as part of the Cartoon Network Shorties series. Running at just over 2 minutes, the cartoon sees Huck attempting to sing Oh My Darling Clementine, though keeps finding himself interrupted by the gradually intensifying sounds of New York City. Growing more annoyed by the moment, Huck ends up in an aggressive fit of rage, depicting him for the first time losing his cool. It's certainly a very odd short, made even odder by its style of art design, a stop-motion cutout animation. Naturally, it was Huck's most stylized design to date. The following years saw Huck mostly appearing in satirical cameo appearances. In 2000, he made an unofficial appearance in classic Simpsons episode Behind the Laughter, a parody of VH1's Behind the Music. At episode's end, a gag announces that the following week's show would focus on Huck, with him making a surprise announcement.
I was so gay, but I couldn't tell anyone.
In 2002, he appeared in Adult Swim's The Brack Show. In the episode, to help him with his love life, Brack is given the nose of his late grandfather, a notorious ladies' man. When Brack is attempting to woo a girl, he accidentally drops the nose. Huck, who is randomly standing nearby, runs past and steals it, then eats it. While Huck is drawn in his classic design, he appears in a described primal dog-like state, having lost the ability to speak and only able to bark. In a 2004 episode of Johnny Bravo, Huck appears as the good luck charm of celebrity cameo Seth Green in a basketball match against Bravo and NBA superstar Shaquille O'Neal. Here, Huck is able to speak again and makes a number of sarcastic quips throughout the match, resulting in a personal foul. Also in 2004, Huck very briefly appeared in an episode of Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law, where he's seen in a book advertising the work of a celebrity plastic surgeon who's being sued by Droopy. In 2005, he appeared briefly again in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, being hit by Hoss Delgado's truck. Yogi and Boo Boo were likewise featured in the same gag. And finally, in 2009's live-action direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movie, The Mystery Begins, he appeared as a bobblehead ornament on the dashboard of the pre-Mystery Machine. It's very interesting to see the media of this era depicting Huck as vain and cynical, though I guess a near 5 decades in the shadows will do that to a man, or hound. Between 2018 and 2019, Huck made a couple of more traditional cameos in the rebooted Wacky Races. In one episode, he made a very brief appearance as the stunt double of Peter Perfect during a film shoot, but in another, he joined the crew as a guest racer, where he drives a gigantic blue racer complete with doghouse. Additionally, Huck joins in on many of the episode's challenges with the other competitors. The series was produced in a modern CG hand-drawn hybrid, featuring the characters in a cel-shaded design. In the same period, Huck was also a regular on The Freddy Funko Show, an animated talk show on the official Funko YouTube channel, hosted by brand mascot Freddy Funko and co-hosted by Huck. Here, Huck, like the rest of the characters, appeared in a stylized, popified design. While this series, which ran for 3 episodes and 5 specials, was not an official Warner Brothers production, they licensed the use of the character and many of their others for the series. In 2018, Huck returned to the forefront again in Green Lantern Huckleberry Hound Special Number 1, a one-shot issue from DC's Hanna-Barbera Beyond comic series, which gave characters and stories a darker, edgier, and more realistic interpretation. Set in the early 1970s, Huck was presented as a has-been former TV star come comedian, whose comments against the Vietnam War have left him a celebrity outcast. After a chance meeting, he teams up with John Stewart, the Green Lantern, to take a stand on the issues of the era, journeying home to Mississippi, where they find themselves face to face with the civil rights movement. Here he's presented as a large, more realistically designed dog. Much like all of the Hanna-Barbera Beyond comics, this one blends heart, humour, social commentary, and satire to form an incredibly bizarre story that somehow manages to work very well. Likewise, Huck was a regular in the 6-part limited series Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles, a satirical take that reimagined Snagglepuss as a gay playwright in the 1950s. Here, Huck appeared as one of the supporting characters, Snagglepuss's lifelong best friend and a closeted gay novelist. Is this another of The Simpsons' famous predictions?
I was so gay, but I couldn't tell anyone.
Both characters are seen as victims of McCarthyism, with Huck, after being caught in a secret affair with police officer Quick Draw McGraw, publicly shamed and outed. Again, Huck was presented in a much more realistic fashion. This is perhaps one of the most poignant and fascinating entries in the Hanna-Barbera Beyond series. Between 2020 and 2021, the Tom and Jerry Show marked the return of Avery's Southern Wolf, now known as Dixie Wolf, where he appeared as a recurring character. He was presented here as a thief, grifter, and master manipulator, often gaslighting Tom and Jerry into getting away with his schemes and crimes. Following a brief appearance in 2020's Animaniacs revival series during a cameo-laden musical sequence, Huck returned in full form in Jellystone. The series features an ensemble of practically every Hanna-Barbera animal character living in the forest town of Jellystone, where they get up to all kinds of antics. While Yogi leads the pack, Huck features in a fairly predominant role as the town's mayor. While the series is fairly modern in style and features a contemporary, stylized, slightly crude art style, the gags and character depictions mostly stay true and respectful to the originals. The series was generally well received upon release and has currently run for 30 episodes across 2 seasons, with a further 40 episodes commissioned. So thankfully, Huck's time in the spotlight will continue for a little longer. And at that, it's over to you. I want to know, what is your favourite Huckleberry Hound appearance or production? Join the conversation and let me know down in the comments below. If you want to check out more of my evolutions, follow the playlist on your screen. Thanks for watching.